What's up everyone, Duro here. I managed to figure out the latest meta since the large update at the end of June, so finally I'm bringing you another deck building guide for the best Russian and US battle groups. But before we dive deep into the deck building, I got some special announcement for you guys. So recently many of you have been asking me what decks I'm using in my videos, what units I'm picking, which units I'm not picking and why, and I'm more than happy to share all this knowledge. So I've been communicating with you either through Discord or in the YouTube comments under the videos, but I was thinking about sharing the knowledge in a more sufficient or efficient way. So therefore, as of now, I'm launching a new Discord server called Broken Arrow Academy. Broken Arrow Academy is a place where I'll be sharing all of my best decks. I'll be also updating them real time as the meta will progress, because you know meta is never final. I'll be also providing guides on how to use those decks, which units to pick, at which situations, which units to avoid. And if some of you are serious about improvement and getting into top 100, I'm also building a guide on how to play the game and what tips and tricks you should apply, what mindset you should have in order to be better. So if you're interested, the link to the Discord is in the description below this video, and from now on it will be also linked below each of my videos that I will upload going forward. When the Discord will grow, eventually I will invite many awesome Broken Arrow players, so it will not be only myself sharing the knowledge, but also the other top players. I'll be also providing one-on-one coaching sessions, but those will have to be paid, because as many of you know, I'm a person who has a regular job. I have a family, wife, daughter, and I don't have that much time to offer, so there will have to be kind of set off, you know, to make sure that those of you who seriously want to improve, you will have to go through some specific program that I have developed. All right, so if you're just interested regarding the decks, join the Discord. If you want to be better and improve and ultimately reach top 100, join the Discord anyway. Like I said, link is in the description, and let's dive deep into the deck building. So this time let's start with the US, and before we go into specifics, just because some deck or some battle group doesn't appear in this video doesn't mean it's not good. I'm not going to tell you that these decks are the only ones you should use. There are many other combinations, and I think developers did a really good job with kind of balancing around, so you don't rely on using only one or two decks, but you can build quite enough for different kind of playstyles. So let's start with the first one that might be surprising, and that's Armored Marines. Now, tanks have been recently buffed. They aim a bit faster, so they're more reactive and more flexible in the usage. You can also maneuver better, and I think that the slight increase in the damage did a lot, especially when you're fighting the enemy infantry. But also at the same time, the AT weapons were buffed, so make sure you're not just rushing your enemy with hordes of armor, but you're keeping the distance, and instead you're using it as a direct fire support against enemy strongholds. So in the recon tab we have the cavalry scouts with the fully upgraded Bradley. Use them as very good combo. When you reach the enemy tank, just unload the cavalry scouts and fire with both at the same time. One missile will hit the APS, the other missile will damage the tank, or the tank will be forced to smoke out. But make sure that you are keeping the distance, because like I said, the tanks were buffed and now they aim faster than ATGM. Then we have a force recon for close combat, and we have two hack to us. These hack to us are basically step V2s with very good optics, so you can lead the way, and if enemy fires at you, he usually reveals the position, so it's really good to not go inside blind. Then we have quite decent infantry. We have Marine Raiders CQC and Mechanized engineers, so you have some abilities to deal with enemy infantry. Then we have Assault and SMO, excellent unit, both anti-tank and anti-infantry. Marines, and then the usual man-pads and the Saber. You usually want to utilize the ACV-30 with 14 seats. How I like to use it, I usually put a squad of SMO and Force Recon, because it's 8 and 6, together it's 14, so which fits perfectly. It's very good for the opening, and you can also take, for example, double Mechanized engineers, which is also 14 scenes in total. You can take Marine Raiders CQC or just Marines. The AAVP is great as a follow-up. It's a bit slow, but it has an armor, so you can assault enemy position. It withstands some hits before it dies. Marine Raiders with Assault and SMO are quite a good combo. If you run out of Marine Raiders, you can use Assault and SMO with Marines. You have 22 seats, so it's just enough. The AMPV is also good at assaulting enemy infantry positions, but you have only 12 seats. How I usually use it is that I load it with double Force Recon. So if you see that some building has only infantry, you smoke with the low M. Don't forget to always use the smoke when you're assaulting. Smoke the area, come with double Force Recon, unload, kill the enemy infantry, load back, and go and rearm resupply. Then we have the best tanks in the game. The reason why I'm not using the fully upgraded Trophy APS is because you're paying 70 points more. I'm sorry, oh, okay. I'm using this variant, and this is 70 points more expensive. So basically you are getting only 4 charges of APS. I don't think it's worth it, because although APS might protect you against the ATGM and ATs, it will not protect you against airstrikes, artillery, or tank guns. And that's what you're fighting very often. So I just don't need the APS. I like to use smoke to dodge the enemy missiles. If you run out of smoke, always go and refill the smoke charges, because it's directly affecting the survivability of your tank. Then we have the most cost-efficient tank in the entire game. CEV is excellent at direct fire support. Make sure we are using hotkey for force fire, as you might be trying to hit enemy that broke line of sight due to smoke. We have some ATGM because only one squad of Saber was included. I couldn't add any more. And we have assault breachers. I highly recommend using those, even though they are difficult tool on your micro, but all of these launched mines have a devastating effect. Then we have a typical Patriot Shorat combo, the Paladins, DGM LRS, excellent at hitting targets that are very far away, either counter battery, enemy artillery, or kill enemy AA, or just soften position before your assault. Speaking about softening enemy positions, Catfe is currently quite a meta. If I could, I would bring both of them, but since I already have 2 assault breachers and GMLRS, I decided to bring only one. And basically, you come in, you throw these bombs at the enemy positions, and then you roll over your infantry and tanks. Low M is excellent for smoke, you have 50 charges. And MTVR, this truck doesn't have only great amount of supplies capability, but it can also bring infantry. And then we have the AT helicopter, the AA helicopter, and the helicopter for more supplies. Good for bringing supplies back into the rear for the GMLRS rearm. Hornet, excellent at fighting air, but also you can use it to fight helicopters. I use it just to circle in my rear and lob these long-range missiles on incoming enemy seed or bombers. I don't usually go into the dogfights. It doesn't do very well even against Su-27. It usually loses, but I highly recommend utilizing these long-range missiles because they've been buffed and they are fast now. And we have a double prowler. You can run a sortie each 6 minutes. Just make sure you don't lose those planes. Make sure you are keeping the distance so the enemy SAMs would not hit you on your way back. Sometimes you get lucky, kill the enemy AA. Or you can assist your teammates if they want to nuke or want to have an organized bombing run, so use the prowlers. It's a tool more used for your teammates than yourself, but you can score some pretty nice hits and kills. Another very good deck with Armored is Armor Specials. This deck is built very simply. This is also a frontline deck. You can modify it. Armor Soft can be also used on the flank, but I don't recommend it because you have much better flank options like Stryker SF or Airborne Stryker. But if you want, you can use it on the flank, but you have to modify a lot of the stuff that's currently here. This deck, this specific that you look at, has been modified for frontline combat. So you have the excellent infantry from SOF, and you have as many good tanks and fire support you can bring from the Armored. I'll just explain how I use this deck. I already talked about Cavalry Scouts and the Bradley. I think I already talked about the Mechanized Rifleman and the tanks and the Assault Breacher. We could not put a lot of support because we are quite limited, but we still have an AA and artillery plus smoke. Smoke is very vital. So how do you play this deck? You bring as many of these AMPV vehicles as possible. All you need is the Bushmaster 2 autocannon upgrade and the fully upgraded armor with APS. You have 2 charges, you have this quite decent armor and 16 health. You have 12 seats in total. Why don't bring the Javelin? Javelin makes it just too expensive, and in a way how I played this deck, you don't need it at all. So what you do is you open up with AMPV loaded with Power Rescue and Rangers RRC. These are excellent combo because Power Rescue are mini Delta Force. They have flashbang, they have shotguns, and Rangers RRC in close quarter variants have also quite decent anti-infantry capability, but they also have 4 very good 84 anti-tank missiles. Launchers. So you basically load at least 2 AMPVs with both Power Rescue and Rangers RRC, making 12 in total in seats, and then you smoke position. You have this excellent mortar carrier with 70 mortar rounds. You create a smoke wall and you push. You unload Power Rescue and Rangers RRC at enemy position, clear it, move it back to AMPV, and head back to resupply and rearm. If situation develops differently, you can also decide to push further because you can keep creating smoke lines indefinitely with this, but I highly recommend to always fall back. You can also use the AMPV with the Delta Force because these guys are also 12, but keep in mind that they will have no 80 capability, so you also want to bring either Ranger Mouse with Rangers RC or Ranger Mouse with Power Rescue in a different AMPV. You are then building up your mechanized URF force. Ultimately, in the mid to late match, you want to use 3, 4 or 5 AMPVs fully loaded with either of these squads. Now, this is your assault force. You also want to have a defending force. For defending force, you can use the Mechanized Engineers and Mechanized Riflemen with or loaded in M113. M113 has 14 seats in total, so you can have these guys loaded in. And they can also be used for assault, but they will not be as effective. But in case you run out of these guys, you can rely on these guys. Since the M113 has 14 seats, it's also good idea to put inside the Rangers with Green Berets Flash, which are 9 and 4. Green Berets Flash are excellent anti-infantry with the Flash, and Rangers are one of the best standoff units in the game because they have double DMR, double machine guns, and also quite decent HT. Cavalry Scouts are also good at holding positions, but you want to have them in a couple because you want to fire simultaneously. Each has only 3 Javelin missiles, so you want them to fire at the same time, so one will eat the APS and the other will deal the damage. Assault Breacher is used whenever you feel like you're facing a heavily entrenched enemy area. You soften up before you run with the Pyrescue and Rangers. Step V3, I already explained in the previous deck why I'm not using the fully upgraded trophy. Just make sure the smoke launchers are always filled. Same with the Abrams. And these Paladins might be useful if you need to create disruption of the enemy rear. You have an evidence that somewhere there are enemy supply dumps, so you can fire from safety and disrupt the enemy logistics. You don't have many ATGMs. I mean, you don't have any ATGM squad at all because there's no purpose for that. What I was building it for. Even though you have cavalry scouts, I decided to bring the M901s, so you have a bit more ATGM capability. And if that's not enough, you can rely on Guardian or Comanche. Guardian has 16 Jaeger missiles, the best US ATGM missiles, fire and forget, currently in the game. Then we have a Raptor, 4 JATMs, really good long-range missiles. You don't have to go in and do dogfights. You just keep displaying behind, and it's stealth. It's stealthy, so the enemy will not know that you are sorting. And if they send bombers or see it, you will just intercept with the long-range missiles. And then we have F-35s, the usual loadout with JDAM and HARM missile. So basically, you are playing aggressively, combining smoke and AMPV with the special forces. When the game settles, you can bring some forces to hold the sector, defend. You can also sit down and bring a Paladin. You also want to have a couple of Shorats and Ranger Stinger because I'm pretty sure the enemy will try to stop you with helicopters. What they usually do when you break through, the panicking move is bring more choppers and stop the push. Okay. Another deck I would like to share with you is, in my opinion, the best flank deck in the entire game, and that's Stryker Special Forces. This deck is built around mobility, excellent standoff, and precision. You want to utilize all the recon variation aspects you have. You have the Sentinels. They are very good on the flank because on the flank there's not as huge saturation of enemy SAMs as in the middle. And if enemy brings fighter to deal with your Sentinel, you always have Raptors. These Raptors can clear the skies for Sentinels, so not only it can show targets for you, but also for your teammates. You also have a CJ, so you can run seat sorties from time to time. It's currently the best seat plane in the game. And if it managed to return to base unharmed, you can basically use it every 6-7 minutes. 7. Lol. Then we have the STT. If you manage to drop these behind enemy lines, they are really pain for the enemy, because if the enemy realizes there's something behind my lines, they usually send what? A chopper. But STT has a Stinger, so the chopper will not be a sufficient solution. And you can pack a Ranger moves, and he can't send even vehicles. you'll have to send combined force to deal with your infiltration, which is really pain. Then we also have the Rangers RRC in a standoff variant. Excellent unit. There are not many units that can beat it from 600 meters. And we have scouts in Stryker RV Javelin Trophy. Fully upgraded one. Russians have nothing like this. You have ATGM vehicle with the best optics and with quite strong autocannon. But make sure that when it got revealed you will fall back or reposition, because it will be one of the top priority targets for the enemy artillery or airstrike. It's too expensive just to lose. But it can be very annoying. In the infantry tab we have the Delta Force and Combat Engineers, excellent units to deal with enemy infantry. Then we have the Troopers. These are very good for defending. We have both 84 and Javelins, but only 2 of them, so make sure you keep them resupplied so you can use Javelins indefinitely. I highly recommend coupling Troopers together so they can fire Javelins at the same time, like with the cavalry scouts in Armored. Then we have the standoff Rangers, Ranger Moves and Ranger Javelins, in case you don't have enough Javelins. You can build an interesting assault force. I like to bring all 4 Dragon trophies and I load them up with Combat Engineers and Rangers. Let's say 2 will be loaded with Combat Engineers, 2 with Rangers, and you basically push into the enemy position. You deal with enemy infantry and armor because you have capability to do that, and then you pull back. So this is usually how I do those kind of hit and run. If it's a sector and you want to keep it, you also bring Troopers in the Hamids. Hamid has 27 seats, so you can bring 3 squads of each of these or any combination of the others, and you can also bring supplies along. So this is, I would say, the best or one of the best supplies vehicles in the game. Very good logistic choice. And you also have the Stryker MGS trophy. Although they are very fragile, they can deal significant damage, and they also have grenade launchers. So again, it will not be able to sustain this position, but it's good for hit and run. Hit and run, flanking, killing from flank or rear, yeah. Then we have Bookers. Bookers are still good, even though they die to the 2 shots usually now when fighting a tank. But I find them useful. Just don't queue or don't attack move enemy positions. They're not that good anymore, like in the previous live version. Keep the distance, they will melt enemy infantry and enemy vehicles. Then we have a Centurion C-Ram because we want to deal with enemy choppers, especially Mi-28. We have Pack 3 MSC, but I could bring only 1, so I decided giving A missiles. We have HIMARS with guided missiles, and then the logistics. Comanches are... you always want to use Comanche for flanking, scouting, and picking up high-value targets behind enemy lines. You want to be as annoying as possible. Then we have Guardians. This is more for a frontline assault. Those Jagams will melt enemy vehicle columns. And we have Killer Eggs. These Killer Eggs will die very easily, usually to the first shot already, so... but make sure that you utilize their quite decent optics, so you can still use them for making sure that you're not getting flanked, or you can protect your HIMARS against enemy choppers, whatever you want. And then in the air tab we have the Raptor and F-35s. I already spoke about those in previous deck. We have a Viper with double LJDM, and then we have F-16 CJ, which is the best seat in the game. So the longer the flank, the better. I highly recommend playing a very long flank, but make sure that your flank is sustained, that you are utilizing your awesome recon with standoff capabilities, and that you're also bringing enough supplies and reinforcements. to keep enveloping your enemy. And also bring intel to your allies who might have much better artillery capability to picking up enemy targets in the rear. And then the last one, but certainly not the least, is the Marines Special Forces. This is the deck for the CQB. I don't recommend bringing this deck on the flank or in the open because you would suffer. This is just to grind the enemy in closed area on the front line. Best examples are Delta or Alpha Sector on Ruda, Alpha Sector on Kadaga base, or basically any forested or heavily urban areas where the buildings and forest lines are close to each other. So the most important part is your recon and infantry tab. In recon you already have the close quarters RRCs, the pararescue, the standoff force recon and green beret flash. These units can deal with both infantry and tanks very efficiently. But still you have an infantry tab with Marine Raiders, Delta Force, SMO, Marines, Ranger Standoff and Ranger Moles. So there are these kind of phases that I usually play with. So at the beginning, at the very start of the game, you want to open with the Arso. Arso is one of the fastest transports in the game. It has 6 seats, so you can put, for example, Ranger Moles or Rangers RRC or Force Recon inside, and you can go very deep straight in the opening. You can either, I don't recommend taking sectors, I recommend going a bit further and creating ambush for the enemy incoming units, or you can infiltrate right at the start and get behind enemy lines and spot high value targets or straight out kill them. So this is how I use the Arsos. Then those are followed with ACV-30. ACV-30 with upgraded armor and the autocannon has 14 seats and it's still quite fast. Not as fast as Jeep, but it's one of the fastest transports. With that amount of seats, it's very fast. I usually load them up with combination of Assaultman SMO and Rangers RRC or Assaultman SMO and pararescue. There are many other options. You can also consider loading them specifically with Marine Raiders or Marines, or you can also bring Rangers and Green Berets Flash. I really like this combo because they have great standoff with great anti-infantry capability. It's completely up to you. The purpose of this unit is to storm the opening enemy positions and drive them out. With this kind of units combination, you should be able to. Then you are following with AAVP. AAVP was recently buffed and it has 22 seats. You want to fully upgrade the armor because this might... You want to unload your infantry close to enemy positions and you want to be able to take some hits. How I like to load it is you can either use Marine Raiders plus Assaultman SMO. If you run out of Marine Raiders, you can use Marines with Assaultman SMO, or you can, for example, use Assaultman SMO and double Rangers RRC, because that's totally 22 seats. Yeah, exactly. No, it's 20 actually. You can also bring double SMO with pararescue, so you have excellent anti-infantry and anti-tank capability. You can also bring Delta Force with Ranger Mouse. So this way you can kill enemy infantry, but also enemy tank. So there is basically answer on everything. You can load the AAVP however you want, and you will decide on how to load it best according to what's the situation on the battlefield. Don't sleep on the tanks. You have the most cost-efficient tank in the game right in here. And since we don't have any ATGM infantry, because that's not the purpose I built this deck for, you also want to have some in reserve. Low ATM is quite decent. It doesn't smoke, so it can survive. Or you can rely on Guardian. Guardian has those 16 ATGMs. It's really good they put Guardian back to Self, because now Self has much more interesting helicopter choices. It's not only about Comanche and TAP anymore. So I could bring only one Patriot because supply or support tab is having huge constraint. I decided to bring the low AD with Hydra. Why Hydra, you might ask? It's because you want to use it aggressively along with your infantry deployment, and I found it very effective. Not only the minigun, but Hydra are very good at suppressing enemy infantry position and straight out killing them. And Hydra also can be used against choppers in case they fly very close, but for that you have Stinger usually. Then we have a Ketfe. I wish I could bring more of them because they are really devastating, but be careful because the range is quite small. We have a low AM because you want to have smoke. You certainly want to have smoke in heavy infantry deck, and MTVR for supplies. If you feel like you are missing supplies and you need more supply trucks, you can get rid of some of the other units and bring MTVRs or this low L or LVSR, but I've been fine so far. In the air tab, we are bringing nuke. Alternatively, you can decide to go the usual standard way, but I wanted a nuke because I'm going heavy ground. I'm going to grind my enemy. I'll try to dodge the enemy air myself, so I don't need a fighter, but I certainly want to have a nuke because either myself or some of my opponents might need this huge bomb support. Then we have double F-35s, but with chase-offs. Why with chase-offs? Because we have plenty of opportunities to deal with soft targets, but we need also something to deal with enemy armor. And the double seat for the same reason that I'm always bringing it when possible. Okay, that's it. Those are all the best US decks that I consider to be pretty much meta currently. And let's take a look at the Russians. So first one might be a bit surprising to you, but I found them extremely useful, and that's Coastal Moto. Why Coastal Moto? I think that this is the best answer to the enemy Special Forces and Marines combo, because you have a lot of anti-infantry capabilities, but not as many, so you have to rely of course on fire support, etc. But this deck is very versatile. I recommend using it on the front line, not on the flank, and I'll tell you how to usually play with this deck. So first you want to open with the Kozliks. They are the fastest. If you get lucky, you might disrupt the enemy deployment, or you might be able to sneak behind and then wait for some high value targets that you can kill with the machine guns. And usually you want to open with the boomerangs and BTR 82's AT, and inside you have either Spetsnaz crew, SSOs, or you can also bring Morskaya. SSOs are excellent at dealing with enemy infantry. I usually bring them in a double. Cherny Berety also melt enemy infantry, but you want to use SSO as close to the enemy as possible. But in case of Cherny Berety, you want to keep a distance because you want to use the thermobaric launcher. If you come too close, you will not be able to use it. Then you want to spam Morskaya Pekota. It's very good overall unit, also with great anti-tank capability. You can bring them double in BT3F, which has upgraded reactive armor, so it's more survivable. And you can also use the BT3 to transport Cherny Berety. Then we have double PTO Metis. I use them because they have the double Metis, which can be quite good at picking up enemy assaults. But if the enemy use a lot of smoke, then you will not be able to utilize Metis. You might consider either bringing more Morskaya Pekota or changing Metis to Moto Pekota or SPG-9. It's completely up to you. This is the wild card. I'm not really yet confirmed that I want to use these. Then we have a double Ikla S, and we have Cornet M. We also have a small drone. This is the one that cannot be shut down with the enemy heavy SAM. And the Diversanti are great at infiltrating enemy positions and lasing for the enemy targets. We have a lot of options on how to laze for your laser guided ammunition. You have Corsair, you have Diversanti, you have PRP5K, so use it. Then in the vehicle tab, it's a bit lackluster, but we still have the 80s. These tanks are a bit faster, but they will not be fat strong against Step V2 or Step V3s. So make sure you know who you're fighting, because you can lose a tank combat quite quickly. Then we have a Taurus with Cornet and Quartet also with Cornet. In the support tab is a place where this deck really shines. We have S300. Then we have the OSA AKM. You might ask, why OSA, why not Tor? The problem is that Tor, even though it has longer range and much faster missiles, it is extremely slow. Yeah, only 50 kilometers per hour, while OSA is much faster. And if you're facing an opponent who is really good with the choppers and who are quite experienced, when they see the Taurus coming, they will just descend lower and pull back. While in OSA, you are usually able to catch up to the enemy choppers and either damage or kill them. Then we have Tochka. If I could, I would definitely bring all of them, the 4, but I bring only 3 because I didn't have enough points. Use them all together. They are very good, very long range, and the best thing is that they resupply in 120 seconds. So theoretically, if you park them very, very far behind at the spawn with enough supplies, you can use them every 2 minutes. 3 missiles at once, so also feel free to join with the SEED Su-24 MPs, so those SEED missiles will not get intercepted. Tornado S is excellent heavy artillery. It's great at so many roles. It's great at softening enemy positions before assaulting. It's great at picking up enemy AA or supply depots, or you can also use it to counter the enemy artillery. I usually load a lot of kills with that, but make sure you are moving it after every salvo you're shooting, or shoot from very far behind so the enemy can't reach you. If you're fighting some deck like Marine Special Forces or Marine Baltics, then you should be safe. The enemy should not be able to reach you. But if you're playing against Armored or Stryker, then they will definitely be able to reach you with their MLRS of their own. Then we have a Grad. I decided to load it with the smokes because I don't have a decent smoke launcher in this battle group. We have only Nonas with 9 smoke rounds, which is nothing. So I decided to use the Grad with 40 smoke missiles. And then we have awesome logistics. These trucks, Urals, can bring a lot of infantry, but also don't forget you can load supplies at the same time. But don't go close to the enemy front line because they will die very easily. Make sure you unload a bit behind. In the helicopter tag we have Ka-52 Ketrans with Hermes, top attack missile. Then we have the Mi-24P Phantom. I think this is currently the best or the most cost efficient AA chopper in the game. The R60s are just excellent to deal with enemy choppers. Sometimes you can shoot down even plane if you're lucky. And then I brought Ka-29. I decided to load it up with Ataka, and I'm still testing it. I think I'm quite successful with it. If you don't like it, you can remove and use Mi-24K instead with the awesome optics. And in the air tab, we have MiG-29 for ASF. You can also decide to remove one pylon and remove one R-77 and put R-73 into pylon instead. But I want to have the better anti-air capability. Then we have the Su-24 seat. We have Su-24 M2. With this loadout, you are able to kill pretty much any tank in a game if you hit it correctly. And then I decided to give a green to double Tu-22. If you don't have enough cruise missiles already, you can also use these, but you cannot use them that often anymore. Basically every 11 to 12 minutes only, so 3 to 4 times per game. But if you use them correctly, they can be really devastating because those missiles are really fast, they fly low, and they are hard to intercept. Alright, that's the Coastal Moto. Now let's go to see another deck, and that's Kars VDV. Kars VDV is also a deck that can be used both on the front line and the flank, but this version was specifically modified for a frontline combat. You want to outgrind your enemy, and you have quite a lot of direct and indirect fire support capabilities. So you're basically maxing the VDV Spetsnaz, with thermobaric launcher, VDV DuroSVK, which are quite decent against both infantry and tanks. And then you're using all 8 VDV Sturm. You can also notice that I brought a lot of these Skrzets, and that's because they have 15 seats. Now we used to load them with 3 squads of these 3 that I mentioned. You can either take full 3 VDV Sturm. This way you will have both anti-infantry and anti-tank capabilities, but be careful, each VDV Sturm has only 3 shots from each rocket launcher, so you want to keep them resupplied in order to use them efficiently. If you need more anti-infantry capability, you bring double VDV Spetsnaz. Either third squad can be Rozvedka or Sturm, or you can bring 1 VDV Spetsnaz, 1 VDV Sturm and 1 VDV Rozvedka. It's completely up to you. You want to use Drogs to cast smoke because Skrzets is not very survivable, although it has 16 HP and can deal with choppers. It doesn't have a lot of armor, both kinetic and heat, so you want to continue fighting through the smoke and keep pushing. If you want to be more capable in standoff, you will use DuroSVK and AGS-40. So it's for 60 to 800 meter combat with the enemy infantry. Guardian Motostrelki is your dedicated anti-tank unit because it has RPG-28, which is currently the best AT handheld weapon in the game. And BMOT is good at delivering infantry where it needs to be because it, even though it doesn't have APS, it has the armor of T-72 and double smoke. And B-15 Kurganets is the Bradley killer. It has only 14 HP and quite not very strong armor, but make sure that you keep distance and you should be able to melt anything with the APS. The tank can still two-shot it, so, but if you are facing Bradley or AMPV or anything, you will kill it because you have double cornet, and at the same time you also have a bullet, so you will quickly go through the APS and kill the vehicle. That's why I call it the Bradley killer. And the 57mm is very good for killing enemy infantry and vehicles, but like I said, don't go too close because you will die very easily. In the vehicle tab we have T-90M, this will be your main tank. I'm not using Armata. Why I'm not using Armata? It's too expensive for what it can do. Okay, you have a bit better armor, you have a bit more HP, you have slightly higher pen, but the same damage, and 4 APS charges. The thing is, those 4 APS charges will not help you against tanks, against airstrikes, against artillery. It's the same reason why I'm not fully upgraded SEP V3 into Trophy. As soon as you bring Armata into the combat, it will become the magnet for the enemy airstrikes and artillery. It's very hard to break even when you're killing and for what you're investing in. So, and that's the same reason why I'm not recommending Barbaris 57, because even though you have 57mm gun, it will not pen any armor. from the front. You can still kill only infantry and vehicles and light tanks. And you have 2 attackers, but what are 2 attackers? One will get eat by APS, the second will get smoked, so it will have no effect. But in a boomerang, the cheaper module, you have 30 mil, which is still good at dealing with enemy infantry and armor, light armor and vehicles. And you have 4 cornets. 4 cornets can actually be enough to kill enemy tank, especially if you have them in a couple. So, and then we have T80UM Drost. This is the tank that is supporting your infantry against enemy infantry and vehicles. Don't use it against tanks because you have low pen, but you have 2 IPS charges, you have decent armor, you are firing a bit faster. Yeah. So it's excellent at dealing with enemy vehicles and javelin squads. Make sure you always reload APS and smoke. And the Terminator. Terminator has a lot of everything. It melts enemy infantry vehicles. It also have the 4 attackers. I just recommend to not coming very close to enemy dedicated AT squads, but it has 2 smokes. Just when there's enemy using a lot of javelins, don't use the Terminator because you don't have APS, and those smokes can be used up very quickly. Just make sure you recharge always, but it's quite decent for a super vehicle. And in support tab we have Buck M2. This is the most price efficient mid-range SAM in the game. For 150 points you have a missile carrier that can one-tap enemy planes. We have Tor M2. This is the upgraded one. Make sure you upgrade because those missiles will be faster and you can shoot and deal much higher DPS. Buratino, I recommend using the salvos of 15 missiles. They're usually enough for dealing with the enemy strongholds. I don't upgrade to TOS 1A because even though you have significantly higher range, you have only 24 missiles instead of 30, and I found 1500 meters to be just enough. We have Drog for a smoke. Whenever you're assaulting, use smoke. Learn using smoke because it's very vital. And then we have some logistics vehicles. In the helicopter tab, we have this beast, Mi-28M Mikhailych, armored with 8 Elmurs. The Elmur missiles are really... they're too cheap for what they can do. They can one-tap many enemy vehicles, including Shorats. They are fire and forget, and it's really hard to kill this chopper, because if you do everything right and you manage your altitude, the enemy Shorat will not be able to kill you, and your missile will one-tap them. So I sometimes even suicide planes just to kill these Mikhailych helicopters. It's really OP. It should be... I mean, if they want to have helicopter with this capability, keep it, but make it more expensive because it's too cheap for what it can do. Also, this Elmur can also hit infantry, so nobody's safe. Then we have Mi-35s with Iglas and Mi-8 for transport and supplies. In the air tab, it's simple. You want to keep Su-35s in your rear. Don't go into the dogfight or very close to the enemy front line because you have low ECM. You might get shot down by enemy fighters or enemy AA. Just keep it in the back and lob these long-range missiles, which you have 4 of them, into incoming enemy bombers and seeds. You should be able to trade positively. It's very cheap for those 4 missiles, by the way. And then we have Su-34 with 3000 kilogram FAPs. I loaded up also 2 anti-radiation missiles and increased the ACM, so it's very survivable. This huge FAP bomb can eradicate enemy concentrations of the units, and you want to fly low when you are coming close to the enemy position, and you want to ascend just before the drop. Then you want to fly back and low, so you survive. Okay, that's the Guards VDV. Let's take a look on another Russian deck, which is Guards Moto. Guards Moto is typical all-arounder. This can be used on both front line and flank. I had quite a lot of success using it on the flank. Maybe it will need some modification, but recently I'm mostly playing front line, so if I will go to the flank, I will build it slightly differently, but it's very formidable in both roles. So, like in the previous decks, I already talked about motorized and guard units, just in the different combinations. You want to rely on a lot of your infantry. You have specials, the Mechanized crew and SSOs. You have the coast leak for the fast opening. You can disrupt enemy deployment or disrupt his supply lines if you manage to reach the rear. You have DuroSVK for the standoff anti-infantry. You have Motopekota as the usual all-rounder cheap infantry. You have Guardi Motostrelki for AT capabilities, and then Iglas and Cornets. So we usually open in boomerangs or BTR 82 with these specials, and you follow up with BMOs or Kurganets. Kurganets is great for fire support. BMOs is great when you want to reach the enemy position and straight assault with SSOs or Spetsnaz. In the vehicle we have the T90, T80, T15 and Terminator. It's the same, completely same combination of units as we had in the previous deck. DuroSVK, no reason to change anything in that regard. In the support tab we have the favorite Tor M2 and Tornado S. Then we also have Psta, in case you don't want to sacrifice any missiles but you need to pick some light target. It's really good because it also guided shells. Then we have Buratino and excellent logistics from Motorized. So it's very similar to DuroSVK, but instead of super strong air and infantry and helicopters, you have super strong ground and artillery. Because DuroSVK don't have the tornado that could unleash so many missiles on the enemy. Also you have much better long range SAM, so the enemy planes are easy to shut down. In the helicopter tab you have Mi-28 Okotnik, you have Mi-24 Phantom and Mi-8 for transport. And in the air tab it's simple, you have one fighter and 2 seats. Use those seats use those seats in a safe way. Fire all the missiles from the distance and fall back. Fly low. You can run seat sorties every 4 or 5 minutes in case none of these planes will get damaged or killed. So it's quite useful not only for you but also for your teammates. What else I would say? Just utilize the excellent fire support artillery and follow up with tanks and strong infantry. You might not have as strong infantry as in DuroSVK, but there are some other aspects that can narrow it to the same level. And the last one is, I think, my favorite one, Mechanized Motorized. So this deck is excellent at the flank, but you can also use it at the front line. I would say that it's extremely versatile and you can use it on both roles. I had a lot of success on the flank, but I also had very nice games on the front line. So, again, you have very strong infantry, Diversanti for infiltration, Spetsnaz crew for the opening with both RPG-28s and Verbas. The reason why I'm choosing very often the combo RPG and Verba is because even though you only have 3 of each, you can easily rearm in each of the vehicles that's following you up because it's not too expensive. Yeah, one RPG-28 is basically 25 supplies, so you can bring back many of the supplies, many of the rockets when you use them. Otherwise I would use the 28 heavy tank, heavy anti-tank variant only, but those Verbas are sometimes useful because many times you're facing enemy self or marine opening in the choppers. Conflict that I already mentioned. In infantry tab you have excellent choices. You have SSOs, you have Ingenieurisch DuroSVK with combat shotguns, You have Ognomechiki with incendiary thermal barracks. Some of you might ask me why I'm not using the thermal barrier rockets. It's because I already have the Boer on SSO and Moroz on Ognomechiki, so I decided to use Assault Sheet variant instead. It's better suited for most close combat because you have the flashbangs, you have the combat shotguns. And the thing about thermal barracks is, in this variant you have only the RPG-7s that are dealing the damage. These weapons above don't really deal any, and when you get stressed and panicked, you will not be shooting these RPG-7s very fast, you will be extremely slow. But if you have the assault shotguns, you will still have significant DPS even when you are stressed and panicked. So the DPS per second doesn't drop very much with the Inżyniery Szturmowiki, so that's why I prefer these ones as well. Then we have Motopekota, you can spam them. I found them very useful and versatile. RPG-29 Vampire are great at dealing with the enemy tanks. And then we have Motopekota AGS. This is the newly added grenade launcher armed variant. I think it's... I'm still on the fence whether I should use AGS or Metis. The thing about AGS is that if enemy smoke the position, you will have to use a lot of micro through force fire, so we can fire at the enemy who might be smoked out, but you can still hit it with the AGS-17. So I had some good kills. I found it effective in a standoff, especially against the enemy rangers, but I'm not sure if they're really that good. I need a bit more time to test them. And then we have the Cornet. As you might have seen or noticed, we have a lot of BMP3s. These variants are excellent at dealing with enemy infantry and vehicles. Not so much with the tanks, but their fire support alone is quite good. And the BTO, it's a weak vehicle, you die very easily, but I'm bringing it because of 800 ammunition supplies. And you also have some RPO, but the range is not really huge, you will die to enemy 80 probably. So you open up with the BTR and K70 Boomerang, you follow up with BMP3s and T72Bs. You can bring T72 B3M. This is the most cost efficient Russian tank in my opinion when you want to fight other US tanks. We are spamming these ones. If I could, I will bring them more. Then we have Chrysanthema because we need some ATGM on top of what we already have, and these are firing missiles that are very fast and very devastating, and both anti-tank and anti-infantry, and they can fire two at once. And we have Meteorite, but I brought only one, but since I already have two pens, I don't think I'm using that Meteorite at all, so I might switch it for one more Chrysanthema or something else. In support tab, we are very powerful. We have S300s, we have the Panzer, best shot in the entire game. We have two Malkas. I'm using just explosive rounds, not guided rounds, because the extra range is not that much, and I found it already quite precise. And if I want to use a guided strike, I usually use Tulpans with this guided ammo. These are having a bit faster aim time, so I'm using them in the doubles, and I'm lasing enemy targets with Virzanti, Corsair or PRT-5K or even Mi-24K, and they can kill in two shots they can kill almost any enemy tank or vehicle. For killing infantry you need a bit more, but for that purpose you either use Malkas or Grat. Then we have Devas for the smoke, and Urals for logistics and infantry. In the helicopter tab, we have the usual ones, same as in the previous deck: Ochotnik, Phantom, and Mi-24K. And in the air tab, we have a mix of several capabilities: Su-27M for air combat, armed with 8 R-77s and 2 R-73s. It's a very good chopper, very good ASF, but make sure you're not fighting the long range, the enemy fighters with long range missiles, because you will struggle. You don't have any long range 9 1000-meter range missile. Then we have the plane for killing the enemy tanks, the tank hunter, and a double seat. So that's it. These are all the decks that I currently use very often and that I consider as a meta. Like I said before, just because some other decks did not appear here doesn't mean they're bad. I'm not saying these decks are the best, but in my opinion, they have the biggest potential to learn, improve, and progress. And I'm really looking forward, guys, to join the Broken Arrow Academy. The link is in the description of the video. And the first person who joins the Broken Arrow Academy Discord will get a free one-on-one coaching session. So I will announce in a day who is that and who will be getting it. So stay tuned. And that's all. If you have any other opinions on the decks or units, feel free to comment below under the video. Like and subscribe, and see you later. Bye bye.